Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss about property and liability insurance, having discussed about health and life insurance in the last class. So for today we're going to look at the properties that we own as human beings as well as liability insurance. The learning objective includes one to understand, buy and maintain homeowners insurance in a cost-effective way. How do we buy these insurance policies in a cost-effective way? Furthermore, we'll try to recover on the liability or loss to your property. How do you recover if such in the eventuality of any happening? Then we're going to learn about buying the automobile insurance policy that's right for you. And lastly, we'll discuss about filing a claim on your automobile insurance. We all know that there is need for us to prepare for any unlikely or unlucky events that may be unforeseen. We know that things happen, so many things happen that are not maybe foreseen or that we don't even plan for. And unfortunately, these events are negative events. They are things that have adverse effects on our properties, most especially in terms of home and automobile. These are two basic properties that are commonly referred or commonly regarded as important among human beings. So as much as people long to own these properties, it's also very important to know that we are supposed to insure them. We need to prepare for any eventuality in future. So property insurance allows individuals to pool the financial risk associated with these property losses in case there is any loss, probably through a fire, burglary, theft, even auto accidents. All these are eventualities that are unplanned for, circumstances that we do not foresee, but we just need to prepare for them in case they happen. So in order to eliminate these catastrophic losses, we need to buy or get insurance policies. Meanwhile, deciding how much and exactly what kind of insurance policy is also a challenge because there are there are numerous eventualities, unforeseen circumstances that could happen that can even affect one's property. So you may not even know which one or a combination of which two, which policies to to subscribe to. So some of these are what we're going to consider today. Protecting your home as a homeowner or as a tenant or whatever you can regard yourself, you need to protect your home. Your home is part of your property. If you are not even the house owner, you have certain properties within the house. If you are a tenant, you also have personal properties in a house. So there are times that it's even necessary for you to insure your own property, those that are dear to you, even while you are not the home owner. So we're going to examine this as well. The first type of homeowners insurance is the fire insurance because this was the common, insurance or eventuality, unforeseen circumstance that happened. And the first modern homeowners policy was owned in 1958. That was in the United States. This homeowners policy came as a package. Initially, it was different policies for different eventuality. So every peril, that is for every event happening, whether it is natural or man-made, that causes any financial loss as a peril. So for any peril before 1958, you will have to get a separate insurance policy. Say for instance, fire insurance, burglary insurance, whatever kind of insurance. So it has to be done separately, not until 1958 when the homeowners policy was actually established. The homeowners policy covers more than the home. It's also liability insurance, and it also includes the liability insurance and the renters insurance as well. Like I mentioned earlier, that even if you're not a homeowner, as in maybe a house owner in the basic sense of it, you might be a tenant or a renter. So in that case, there is also a renter's policy. You might be a condominium owner, that's you are owning a unit in a particular condo. Or you might even have your own might be considered as old compared to what is being owned in recent years. So there are package policies for homeowners. There are different package policies. We have the named perils. This is a type of insurance that covers a specific set of perils. The perils that are not named are not covered. So for the excuse me, for the named perils, the specific eventualities that the insurance policy covers would have been mentioned. For instance, okay, this policy covers theft, it covers theft or burglary, it covers fire, it covers flood. So if it's not mentioned that it covers earthquake, it means that an earthquake is not covered in that particular policy, meaning that only the ones that are concerned are covered, or only the ones that are mentioned are covered. We also have the open perils. This is a type of insurance that covered all perils except those specifically noted as excluded. So this one is quite broader, save for the fact that those ones that are not included in the policy are mentioned categorically. So unlike the named peril, the open perils will only mention the ones that are not the ones that are excluded, that's the ones that are not included in the policy. Say for instance, an open peril policy might cover maybe might cover theft, might cover flood, so you will have in that specific open peril that except cover all perils except flood, for instance, except earthquake, for instance. So those exceptions are what will be mentioned in the policy. So the HOs, that's the homeowners and policy, are usually divided. You have the section 1, which is the property insurance, and the section 2, which is the personal liability insurance. We're still going to consider this. For the basic form of the home insurance, like I mentioned earlier, there are different policies. So we're going to compare the policies and see what they cover. So for the basic form of the HO1, that's the homeowner, that's the first policy, which is just the basic form. It covers such very narrow coverage that isn't available in most states. All right, the dwelling is based on the structure replacement. The other structures where you just pay 10% of insurance, we have the personal property and then the loss of use. The covered peril under the homeowner HO1 includes fire or lighting, vandalism, riot or civil commotion, volcanic eruption, explosion, smoke, vehicles, aircraft, pets, and so on and so forth. So these are the policies that are covered under this basic form. So the implication is that any other eventuality or peril that happens out of these ones mentioned are not covered in the insurance policy. The second form is a broader form which covers a named perils of insurance, and except for those that are mentioned, or those are specifically exempted from the policy. So is a named peril form of insurance, that is, it covers a set of named perils such as fire, lightning, windstorm, and so on. If a peril isn't specifically named, then it isn't covered. So the covered perils are those mentioned in H1, then plus, that's in addition to all those, you have the falling objects, weight of ice, snow, or sleet rather, accidental discharge of water or steam, freezing of plumbing, you know, heating, accidental damage, and so on and so forth. So it's just an extension of H1. That is the first the basic form, H01, and then a broader form of it. All these ones that I mentioned now are also included. Then H3 is the all risks form. This covers all direct physical losses to your home. It offers open peril, you know, protection, meaning that it covers the peril except those specifically excluded, those that are mentioned that are excluded. So for the coverage, we have the B, C, D, E, F, and they are the same as the H02. The coverage, the coverage for the renters form, which is the H4, is aimed at renters or tenants and covers personal belonging but does not include the liability insurance. So this might be applicable to those tenants. Tenants might get this kind of insurance for themselves. And in that case, dwelling or other structures or personal property or loss of use are not applicable. Some of them are not applicable. For example, dwelling and other structures are not applicable in this situation because they are rentals and they don't even, the property are not theirs. The properties are not theirs, or the property is not for the renter. So that's why it's not even applicable. Then we have other structures too. They are also not applicable. Just for a mention, to explain a little bit on what this ABCD means. That's the coverage, the coverage of ABCD in terms of dwelling, other structures, personal property, and loss of use. So for the for the dwelling, it protects the house and any attachment to it. For example, maybe the garage. So however, if the land surrounding the house is destroyed by maybe explosive, for instance, this coverage won't pay to restore it. So for the dwelling, it's anything that, the house itself is protected and anything that is attached to it. Any other thing that is not attached to the building will not be covered in the policy. Then you have the second coverage, which is the other structures. This policy protects other structures on the premises that aren't attached to the house, to the main house. For example, if your own, has maybe a coverage or an insurance policy that under this particular coverage, which is the other structures, those that are not attached to it are also covered. For example, maybe if the garage is detached from the main building, so it may also be covered under the other structures. Then we have the personal property. This protects the personal properties that is owned or used by the policy holders, regardless of the location of his property. All right. I think this one is the one that is more relevant to tenants, like I mentioned earlier, because it says regardless of the location of the property. So if the personal property is, is in another person's home or in one's home, then the insurance policy will still cover it. Then the last one is the loss of use. The loss of use. This provides benefits if your home can be used because of an insured loss. This amount of loss of use is limited to maybe 20% of the amount of insurance on the home or maybe any personal property. So these last two, that's the personal property and the loss of use, are usually applicable to tenants as well, unlike the first two, which is the dwelling and other structures, which is basically applicable to homeowners only. So for the HO6, which is the house owners insurance policy 6, which is the condominium form, it provides personal property and liability insurance for co-op or condominium owners. So The coverage for E and F are the same as that of homeowners 1 and 2 policies. Then we have the HO8, which is the older owners form. They are designed for older homes, insuring them for repair cost or actual cash value rather than replacement costs. Because they are old, so the insurance might just be for the repairs or for maybe their actual cash values. So here are the property coverage I was trying to explain earlier: the dwelling, other structures, personal property, as well as loss of use. So in order not to waste much time, I will just try to quickly brush through again. Like I mentioned earlier, that the dwelling protect the house and any attachment to it, anything that is attached to the house. Say for example, the garage, like I mentioned earlier, it could even be maybe garden, whatever you think you want to maybe insure it and things like that. So as long as it is attached to the building, then the policy will cover it. That of other structures are those that protect the structure, I mean anything within the premises. As long as it's within the premises, whether it is attached to the building or not, then the policy will cover it. For example, maybe the landscaping, okay, rather than the garage that I mentioned. I mean, but apart from the garage that I mentioned, you can have maybe landscaping, right? Yeah, even rather than the garden that I mentioned. So if you have landscaping and you want to insure it, then better under this coverage of other structures, or even detached garage. Maybe your garage is not attached to the structure of the the house itself, so it will be covered under the other structures. Then we have the personal property, which protects one's personal property regardless of the location of the property, whether it's inside your own property in terms of home or a rented apartment. So that is a good policy for tenants. Then we have the loss of use, which provide benefits for your home, especially for the old owners. It provides benefit for them if they can't be used because of an insured loss. So the personal liability coverage protects policyholder and family from financial loss if someone is injured or the property as a result of their actions. So any actions that is taken by somebody and it harms or causes a financial loss to another person is covered under this policy, insurance policy. It protects against liability suits, so you are not even being maybe charged to court or something like that. And it also covers medical expenses of anyone hurt by a policyholder, their family, their pet, all this. So under this personal liability coverage, the family is included. Any other thing that belongs to them, maybe like a pet, as mentioned, is also included in terms of the medical expenses if any eventuality happens. So we also have what we call the supplemental coverage. Like we mentioned earlier, that a single insurance policy cannot cover all perils. It cannot cover all perils. So in that case, people are expected to like get a supplemental coverage, which is an endorsement. Okay, an endorsement is a written attachment to an insurance policy. To be in written form to an insurance policy to add or delete a particular coverage. So we also have the personal article floaters, the earthquake coverage, the flood protection. All these can be found in the supplemental coverage, because most of the policies do not take care of all eventualities or all perils. So as a policy holder, you need to write your insurance company, right, informing them about what you want, the policy you want to add to the existing one or the one that you want to delete. So that will be done through a supplemental coverage. We also have what we call inflation guard, which is endorsement that automatically updates your property coverage based on an index of replacement cost. All right, and we have added liability insurance under this supplemental coverage as well, which is the personal umbrella policies. Your insurance need. Apart from identifying that we need to insure ourselves or our lives and our properties, we also need to be able to identify what exactly we need. All right, so how much insurance do you need? A lot of factors need to be taken into consideration when determining what exactly or what form of insurance policy one actually needs. So one of them is how much insurance do you need, and this of course will be on an individual basis, because each individual knows his or her capacity in terms of financial in terms of finance. So you determine your own capability first, then you determine the property and how much coverage you want for the property. So the need for inflation guard coverage and need for replacement cost coverage on possession is also another factor to be considered. All right, inflation happens, prices rise, and things like that. So that will also determine maybe the percentage that you want the insurance policy to cover in terms of in case of any loss of any property. So you need enough insurance for full replacement in the event of total loss. In the event of total loss of the property, then it's better to go for insurance policy that will cater for the full replacement. So all this needs to be taken into consideration when determining what one actually needs in terms of the insurance policy. In co-insurance and 80% rule, co-insurance provision requires that homeowners insurance pay a portion of the claim if he or she purchases an adequate amount of insurance. For example, there are insurance policies where it has to be co-funded. At times it might even be your medical insurance. Or we've had cases or instances where the insurance company pays a certain amount of the medical bills while the patient also pays a certain amount. So this is what we call co-insurance. So for the 80% rule, it means that the homeowner's insurance will pay a portion of the claim if he or she purchased adequate amount of insurance. All right. So the 80% rule rules that 80% of the coverage will be placed or will be insured for replacement. The policy will hold that the policy states that 80% will be paid by the insurance company, while the policyholder will pay the remaining 20%. So the bottom line of what we've been discussing so far in terms of identifying your insurance needs include: one, how much homeowners insurance do you need? As a homeowner, you need to be able to determine how much homeowners insurance policy you need. You may want to consider your financial capability. You may want to consider the value of the home. You may want to consider whether you want a co-insurance or you want a full replacement with the insurance company. So all these still fall under the need. So, but you need to consider the basics. The bottom line is that you need to be able to consider how much homeowners insurance you need. Then you need for some thought and foresight too. Due to inflation, due to developments in technology and other things, even the home you are insuring today might not really be, what will be in vogue in the next decade or so. So there is need for some thought and foresight into the future on how you want to take care of that or how you want to handle that. You revisit your insurance needs from time to time. There are times that you may need to revisit your insurance policy, your insurance need. Assets and possessions are always changing, so are your insurance need as well. As long as there is, things are evolving, events are evolving and everything, there is need to also review your insurance policies from time to time so as to take care of eventualities. So here is a checklist that may guide you on how much insurance you need. You need enough insurance to cover the replacement of your home in the event of a complete loss. So you need to consider that. You should have protection against inflation eroding your coverage. If you are in a flood or earthquake area, you need a special protection against these disasters. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the supplemental coverage. So if you are if you are holding a policy, or if you are going for a policy that does not include this, then you should know, and you know that the area you are living, or the area where your property is prone to maybe natural disasters like earthquake, for example, and earthquake is not covered in your insurance policy, then you should know that you have to include it via a supplemental coverage. So the list goes on. You may just want to check to see how much insurance you need. Keeping the cost down. How do you keep your insurance cost down? How do you reduce the insurance? This can be done via the insurance and credit score. This is based, the insurance credit score is based on the same information as your traditional credit score. It's just that it is used in determining what your home and auto insurance rates will be. All right, so the lower your insurance credit score, the higher your rates will be. Once the credit score are low, then you will be paying a higher insurance rate. Manage your insurance credit score to keep your cost of insurance down. There are different ways of managing your insurance score, so we're still going to discuss about that later. So here is the relationship between your credit score and the insurance policy. The higher the credit score, then the lower the policy. The lower the credit score, the higher the insurance policy. So these are things that may help you keep your cost down, all right, in terms of discounts and savings. The location of your home, for example, might determine your credit score, or the insurance cost, the type of structure that you've built or bought, the level of the coverage and policy type, and all these are going to maybe keep the cost down by selecting, when you select a financially sound insurer with low comparative rates. So shopping for an insurer or an insurance company is also very important when it comes to taking any insurance policy or decision. So here are more tips on how you can keep your costs down. High deductible discount, security system, or smoke detector discount. All this might keep your costs down. Multiple policy discount, other discounts that are available, and then you try to shop around, compare insurance policies, compare insurance providers, compare their different policies and the different costs before you decide on which one to embark upon or which one to take. So here are steps on how to improve your credit score. The first step is to make sure that you pay your bills on time so that you will not be having outstanding. You track your spending, make a budget, and pay down your debt. That's the second step. The third step is to try not to solve your credit score problems by canceling long-term account. See, don't try to solve your problems by canceling the long-term account. You just have to take care of them. Then step 4, don't add more credit cards open to increase your borrowing capacity, because this is really going to put you in a financial mess at the end of the day. And the last step is to make sure that your financial life is in order. Do not spend more than you are earning. All right, do not overspend. So all these are going to improve your credit score at the end of the day. Here is the checklist for homeowners insurance. You determine the amount that you need, you put together a list, you consult with agents, letting them know what you're looking for and the likes. If you're ready to have an auto insurance policy, you want to contact the agent or the insurer, then you get several bids on the total package, including the modification, the floaters, extensions, and so on. And then you now conduct an annual review of your homeowners insurance coverage. How do you make your coverage work? That's what we're going to discuss now, making your coverage work. One of the ways in which you can make your coverage work is to establish the proof of ownership and value asset in detailed inventory or a videotape. You have to establish your proof of ownership. Anything that is going to prove that yes, you are the owner of that particular asset, all right, or property, you need to get a detailed inventory. You keep the receipt, you keep anything that that provides detailed information as to the fact that you are the owner of that particular property. Insurance company have worksheets that can be used. You may consult with them. They will supply inventory worksheets for you, and these worksheets usually include maybe the date of the purchase, the cost of the item, the model, the brand, the serial number. All these will be provided in the list in the inventory worksheet. So you fill in all those so that your proof of ownership can be established. Then you also follow the basic steps to collect in the eventuality of any loss. You need to follow the steps or the guidelines that have been given or provided for you to be able to claim any loss of the item. So here is what to do in the event of any loss. You have to report the loss immediately. All right, you have to report to the appropriate channel immediately. If, for example, it's a credit card or your ATM, you should notify the issuing company immediately or the bank immediately. So you have to make temporary repairs to your property. If it's a house, for example, any damage done to it can be taken care of temporarily, pending when the insurance company will also take over. You have to make a detailed list of every lost or damaged, anything you lose in the house, anything lost in the house. You have to take proper records. Maintain the records of the insurance settlement process, and then you confirm the adjuster's estimates. Automobile insurance. That's another type of property insurance. The first one that we treated is the home. All right, we've been talking about home owner insurance. So we are moving on to automobile insurance. We all know what automobiles are, and under this automobile insurance, we have the personal automobile policy, which is the PAP, and it's a standardized policy for an individual or family. It's a standardized one. It covers, we have the Part A, it has 4 parts. The Part A is the liability coverage. The Part B is the medical expenses coverage that are related to the automobile. The Part C are the uninsured policy or motorist protection coverage, and the Part D is the damage to your automobile coverage. So here is a chart showing the insurance coverage, automobile insurance coverage. So for the personal automobile policy, we said it has 4 parts. The first is the liability coverage, which can be split also into 2: the combined single limit as well as the split limit coverage. The Part B is the medical expenses. Part C is the uninsured motorist, while Part D is the damage to your automobile coverage, which could be maybe collision loss, and then other collision loss or comprehensive physical damage coverage. So for the liability coverage, it provides protection for you if you are legally liable for bodily injury or property damage caused by your automobile. So it's like a personal coverage. It provides protection for you personally. The medical expenses is the one that covers the medical bills and maybe the eventuality of death, God forbid. It also covered funeral expenses with limit per person for maybe you and your passenger, something like that. So that is the medical expenses. Then the uninsured motorist, it protects you by covering bodily injury and property damage caused by maybe drivers without liability insurance and so on. Then we have collision. Is that the last one? Is the collision loss or other collision that are that can happen to the policyholder. So reading automobile liability insurance limits quoted and speed limit coverage or combined and single limit coverage. Personal automobile policy, the standard exclusions, those are it means that those that are not covered under this personal automobile policy. All right. The standard exclusion includes intentional injury or damage. When you intentionally injure yourself or you damage something intentionally, it is not covered. So these are standard exclusions. Using a vehicle without the owner's consent. If you are using somebody's vehicle without his or her consent, then the policy does not hold here. This is not covered. Using vehicle with fewer than 4 wheels is also not covered. Using another person's vehicle regularly. Using own vehicle but not listed on the policy. All these are exceptions. Okay, they are excluded from this personal automobile policy. So here are the comparison between the personal automobile policy in terms of the coverage description, the individuals that are covered, as well as the recommended policy limits. The recommended policy limits are as applicable in the United States. For example, the party of the PAP involves liability coverage and provides coverage against lawsuits that might arise from negligent ownership or operation of an automobile. So individuals that are covered, non-excluded relatives who live with the insured regardless of whether the automobile is owned or not. All the recommended policy limits is $100,000 of bodily injury liability coverage per person and $300 of bodily injury coverage for all persons. And if you have maybe sizable assets and so on and so forth, so you have the table. Just try to look at the comparison in terms of the coverage, the individuals, as well as the policy limits. Here is the continuation of the personal automobile policy. No fault insurance is what we're going to discuss next. This is a type of auto insurance in which your insurance company protects you in case of an accident, regardless of who is at fault, whether you are the one at fault or the third party is the one at fault. So no fault insurance covers that kind of accident, without considering who is actually at fault. Over half of the states have no fault system. It imposes limits on medical expenses and other claims, which may not be enough to cover all the medical expenses. These are the determinants of the cost of automobile insurance, like we have for the homeowners too. The type of automobile, the use of automobile, what's the mileage, how long have you bought it, and so on and so forth. How long has it traveled in terms of distance, and so on. So the driver's personal characteristics, the driver's driving record, what's the driver's record. Has they had any issue before? Has they had an accident or whatever before? Has it been reported maybe with driving and drinking, things like that, just the record or history of the driver. Then where you live, discount that you qualify for, as well as the insurance credit score. So all these are determinants of the cost of your automobile insurance. They are determinants of what the insurance companies are going to charge you. So these are common automobile insurance discounts: accident-free, multiple automobiles, low annual mileage, automobile and owners together, low damageability, and so on and so forth. So all these are common discounts that are available for automobile insurance. So there is just an image or a graph showing the estimated average amount paid out on claims relative to the highest credit score deserved. Keeping your costs down in terms of automobile. How do you keep your costs down, like we've discussed for the house owner property? You have to shop comparatively. You have to compare insurance policies and their insurance companies and their policies. You consider only high quality insurers. Try to make sure that you are dealing with insurers that are of good reputation. Take advantage of discounts where applicable or available. Buy a car that is relatively inexpensive to insure. Improve your driving record. Try as much as possible to drive safe and be careful while driving. Then you raise your deductibles, and lastly, keep adequate liability insurance. Filing a claim. In the event of any unforeseen circumstance, how do you file a claim? The first is to get help for the injured in case of any eventuality. And if anyone is injured, you get help for them. You move the car to a safe place. You get identification of witnesses. At times you make videos, pictures, and things like that. Immediately the event happens, so you need to provide proof of what happened and a record. So you cooperate with the police on whatever information is requested or required. Take a test for alcohol if you believe the other driver is under influence. Then you write down your recollection of accidents. Apart from those, don't sign anything or admit any guilt if you if you really want the insurance company, to come in, like, do you want them to repay you for the loss? Get a copy of the police report and make sure it is accurate. Call your insurance agent as soon as possible. You cooperate with your insurer as well by providing all the necessary evidences and records. Keep record of all expenditures associated with the accident in case you have taken care of some expenditures before the insurance companies arrive or comes in. If a serious accident, then you have to meet with a lawyer to know your rights. So summarily, we've discussed about the 6 standardized issues with different types and level of insurance for homeowners and rentals. We've also discussed the fact that issues have property insurance, section 1, and liability coverage, which is the second section. Have enough homeowners insurance for full replacement in complete loss. We also mentioned the fact that you should have a detailed asset inventory to provide effective protection for you, and to also serve as a proof of ownership by the time you need to claim your insurance policy. We also discussed the fact that with an automobile insurance policy, there's protection against bodily injury and against the property damage, all divided up in 4 parts. And we mentioned the 4 coverage A, B, C, D as well. So, and lastly, we discuss the fact that the age, the sex, the driving record, and insurance credit score affect the cost of automobile insurance. as well as deductibles and discounts. On this note, we've come to the end of our discussion for today. Thanks so much for your audience. Hope to meet you again next week. We'll be moving on to the next topic. Before then, do stay safe and take care of yourself. Bye.